You can be in a room full of people and feel completely alone. You can be in a relationship and still feel like you are on an island. You can want love desperately and simultaneously do everything in your power to keep it at arm's length. This is the paradox of avoidant attachment, and if you recognize yourself in these contradictions, you are not broken. You are human, carrying adaptations that once protected you, but now quietly sabotage the connection you crave. Avoidant attachment is one of the most misunderstood patterns in psychology. From the outside, people with this style often appear confident, independent, even superior to the messy emotional entanglements that seem to consume others. They seem to have it figured out. They do not need anyone. They are fine on their own.
Keeper, guide me, lost in my own haze. Please, keeper, guide me, lost in my own haze. My heart's a stranger, adrift in doubt, searching for myself through these maze-like days. Don't let my fears hide who I am. Don't let my shadows break this man. Please, soul weaver, show my truth, set it free. I'm reaching blind, calling to the soul keeper for me.
But that appearance is a carefully constructed fortress, built brick by brick over years, designed to protect a vulnerability so profound that even acknowledging it feels dangerous. Behind the wall of self-sufficiency is a person who learned, long ago, that needing others leads to pain, that showing vulnerability invites rejection, that the safest place to be is alone. Understanding attachment theory, the foundation, which provides one of the most powerful frameworks we have for making sense of how early experiences shape adult relationships. The theory was developed by British psychologist John Bowlby in the 1950s and 60s, though its roots go back further to observations made during World War II about children separated from their parents. Bowlby was a psychiatrist working with troubled children when he began to notice patterns that traditional psychoanalytic theory could not fully explain. He observed children in orphanages, children hospitalized without their parents, children who had experienced early separations. What he saw challenged prevailing assumptions about child development. The children did not simply miss their parents, they went through a predictable sequence of responses. First came protest, loud crying and searching behaviors, the child desperately trying to reunite with the caregiver. Then came despair, a quieter sadness, the child withdrawing and becoming passive. Finally, if the separation lasted long enough, came detachment. The child appeared to adapt, to become independent, to no longer need the parent. But this detachment was not healthy adaptation. When reunited with their parents, these children did not rush into their arms with relief. They turned away. They seemed indifferent. They had learned, at a deep biological level, that seeking comfort does not work. They had adapted by shutting down their attachment system, by becoming self-reliant, by convincing themselves they did not need anyone. This observation became the foundation for attachment theory. The idea that the quality of early caregiving creates an internal working model of relationships that shapes behavior across the lifespan. Bowlby proposed that human beings are born with a biological imperative to form attachments with caregivers. This is not a luxury or a psychological preference. It is a survival mechanism. Infants cannot survive on their own. They need adults to feed them, protect them, keep them warm. The attachment system is the biological program that ensures infants seek proximity to caregivers when they feel threatened, hurt, or scared.
Like stolen secrets, baby, tell me where you really been. I already know, you've been running round on me. I already know.
When caregivers are consistently responsive and attuned, children develop secure attachment. They learn that the world is safe, that their needs matter, that vulnerability leads to comfort rather than rejection. They develop confidence in themselves and trust in others. They learn to explore the world from a secure base, knowing they can return for reassurance when needed. But when caregivers are consistently unresponsive, inconsistent, or frightening, children develop insecure attachment patterns. These patterns are not deficits. They are intelligent adaptations to unreliable relational environments. The child figures out what works, what minimizes pain, what maximizes the chance of getting at least some of their needs met. Avoidant attachment is one of these adaptive patterns. It develops when a child's bids for connection are consistently rebuffed, ignored, or met with discomfort. The child reaches out and nothing happens. Or worse, reaching out makes things worse. The parent withdraws, criticizes the child for being needy, punishes emotional expression. The child learns that expressing needs does not lead to having those needs met. The solution is brutal but effective. Stop expressing needs. Stop reaching out. Learn to be okay on your own. Mary Ainsworth, Bowlby's colleague and collaborator, developed an experimental paradigm called the strange situation that allowed researchers to observe attachment styles in action. She placed 1-year-old children in a room with their mothers, introduced a stranger, had the mother leave briefly, and then observed what happened when the mother returned. Securely attached children became distressed when their mothers left, sought comfort when they returned, and then went back to exploring the room once reassured. Anxiously attached children became extremely distressed and had difficulty being comforted even when reunited. But avoidantly attached children showed a different pattern. They appeared unaffected by their mother's departure. They did not seek comfort when she returned. They seemed independent, self-sufficient, fine on their own. But physiological measurements told a different story. These children's heart rates were as elevated as the anxiously attached children's. Their cortisol levels were just as high. They were experiencing the same stress. They had just learned not to show it. They had learned that showing distress did not lead to comfort, so they suppressed the outward signs while experiencing the same internal turmoil. This is the essence of avoidant attachment, not the absence of need, but the suppression of need, not the absence of emotion, but the suppression of emotion, not genuine independence, but defensive self-reliance developed in response to caregivers who could not or would not provide the attunement and responsiveness that secure attachment requires. The two faces of avoidance, dismissive versus fearful. Not all avoidant attachment looks the same. Within the avoidant category, researchers have identified two distinct subtypes that share the core feature of discomfort with closeness, but differ in crucial ways. Understanding which subtype you might fall into can illuminate why certain relationship patterns feel so familiar and why healing requires different approaches. Both types avoid intimacy, but they do so for different reasons and with different internal experiences. Dismissive avoidant, the fortress of independence. The dismissive avoidant is characterized by a profound sense of self-sufficiency, coupled with a genuine devaluation of close relationships. These are the people who truly believe they are better off alone, who view emotional needs as weakness, who pride themselves on never depending on anyone. They are not just avoiding intimacy to protect themselves from pain. They genuinely do not believe intimacy has much value. From the outside, dismissive avoidants often appear supremely confident. They have their lives together. They are successful in their careers, disciplined in their routines, competent in navigating the world solo. They do not seem to struggle with loneliness the way others do. They genuinely enjoy solitude and often report feeling drained or irritated by too much social interaction. They are the friend who is perfectly pleasant but somehow never quite available. The colleague who is helpful but maintains clear boundaries. The partner who is affectionate but only to a point. But beneath this confident exterior lies a different reality. Dismissive avoidants have not transcended the need for connection. They have suppressed it so deeply and for so long that they no longer consciously feel it. Research using implicit measures of attachment, measures that bypass conscious awareness, shows that despite their conscious beliefs about independence, dismissive avoidants show the same physiological stress responses to relationship threats as everyone else. Their bodies know they need connection, even if their minds have convinced them otherwise. The dismissive avoidant developed in childhood environments where emotional expression was discouraged or punished, where parents emphasized achievement and self-reliance over emotional attunement, where the message was clear: feelings are for weak people and you are not weak. These were often households that looked fine from the outside, perhaps even exemplary. The parents provided materially, emphasized education and discipline, created stable routines. But emotional attunement was absent. These parents often had their own unresolved dismissive attachment. They were uncomfortable with feelings, theirs and their children's. When their child cried, they felt impatient or disgusted rather than moved to comfort. When their child came to them with a problem, they offered solutions rather than empathy, teaching the child to value problem solving over emotional connection. When their child expressed fear or sadness, they minimized it, redirected attention, or suggested the child was being overdramatic. The child in this environment learned to take care of themselves early, to view dependence as shameful, to equate vulnerability with failure. They learned that independence is valued, that self-sufficiency is praised, that the less you need from others, the better. They developed pride in their ability to handle things alone, and this pride became armor against the pain of not being emotionally seen or held. In adult relationships, dismissive avoidants tend to keep partners at a comfortable distance. They may prefer long-distance relationships, which provide connection without the demands of daily intimacy. They may maintain separate living spaces, even in committed partnerships, framing this as healthy autonomy rather than defensive distance. They may structure their lives so that work and personal projects always take precedence over relational time, ensuring that no relationship can become too central to their lives. When partners express needs for more connection, dismissive avoidants often feel bewildered or annoyed. Why isn't what we have enough? Why do you need more from me? Can't you just be independent like I am? They perceive the partner's needs as excessive, as a character flaw, as evidence that the partner is too dependent or insecure. It does not occur to them that their own discomfort with intimacy might be the problem. They have constructed an entire worldview in which independence is superior and connection is for people who are not strong enough to stand on their own. This worldview serves an important defensive function. If relationships are not that important, then it does not matter that you struggle with them. If independence is superior, then your difficulty with intimacy becomes a virtue rather than a limitation. The dismissive avoidant can maintain their self-esteem while avoiding the pain of acknowledging what they actually lost in childhood, the experience of being emotionally held, of having their vulnerability met with care, of mattering to someone at a deep level. But the costs accumulate. Dismissive avoidants often report a sense of something missing, a flatness to life, an inability to feel deeply satisfied even when they achieve external success. They may go through relationships that all end the same way, with partners eventually leaving because they cannot bear the emotional desert. They may find themselves alone in middle age or older, still insisting they prefer it that way, while quietly wondering why life feels so empty. Fearful avoidant, the push-pull paradox. The fearful avoidant, sometimes called disorganized attachment, is characterized by a profound ambivalence about closeness. Unlike dismissive avoidants who consistently maintain distance, fearful avoidants desperately want connection while simultaneously being terrified of it. They approach and withdraw in cycles, creating relationship dynamics that can feel chaotic and confusing to both themselves and their partners. Fearful avoidants hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously. I am unworthy of love, and others cannot be trusted to provide it. This creates an impossible bind. They want closeness to soothe their sense of unworthiness, to feel valued and chosen and loved, but they expect that closeness will inevitably lead to rejection or harm. They are convinced that once someone truly knows them, that person will leave, so they find themselves in a constant state of approach avoidance conflict, drawn toward connection while simultaneously preparing for it to go wrong. This pattern typically develops in childhood environments characterized by frightening or unpredictable caregiving. Perhaps a parent was loving one moment and terrifying the next, warm and affectionate when sober but rageful when drunk, tender sometimes but capable of sudden violence. Perhaps there was abuse, sexual or physical or emotional, interspersed with genuine affection, creating profound confusion about whether the parent was safe or dangerous. Perhaps the parent struggled with mental illness, present and attuned some days, but dissociated and unreachable others. Perhaps trauma made the parent emotionally fragmented, unable to provide the consistent presence that secure attachment requires. Perhaps the parent was so overwhelmed by their own dysregulation that they frightened the child, not through deliberate cruelty, but through their own inability to regulate. The child in this environment faces a paradox with no solution. They need the parent for survival. All children do. But the parent is also the source of fear, pain, or unpredictability. The child cannot approach because the parent might hurt them, but they cannot withdraw because they need the parent to survive. There is no good option, no way to be safe, no strategy that reliably works. This is what researchers call a biological paradox. The attachment system is designed to seek proximity to the caregiver when the child feels threatened. But what happens when the caregiver is the source of threat? the child's nervous system goes into chaos. Approach and avoid impulses fire simultaneously. The child becomes dysregulated at a neurological level, unable to find a coherent strategy for dealing with the caregiver. This early dysregulation persists into adulthood. Fearful avoidants cycle through intense connection followed by panicked withdrawal. They might fall in love quickly, feeling intense chemistry and connection with a new partner. For a few weeks or months, they are all in. They see the partner constantly, share deeply, imagine a future together, but then something shifts. Maybe the partner says "I love you," and instead of feeling happy, the fearful avoidant feels trapped. Maybe the relationship starts to feel real, and suddenly they notice every flaw in the partner, every reason why this would never work. Maybe they become convinced the partner is going to leave, and in anticipation of that abandonment, they pull away first to protect themselves. But once they have withdrawn, once they have created distance, they feel the loss. They miss the partner. They wonder if they made a mistake. The partner's perceived flaws no longer seem so important. They reach out again, wanting to reconnect, and the cycle repeats. This pattern creates tremendous suffering for the fearful avoidant themselves, who often feel confused and ashamed of their inconsistency. They do not understand why they keep doing this. They genuinely want a stable relationship, but their nervous system swings between hyperactivation when they fear abandonment and deactivation when they fear engulfment. They are not being manipulative or playing games. They are genuinely caught in conflicting drives, simultaneously reaching for connection and recoiling from it. Partners of fearful avoidance often feel whiplashed. One day, everything seems great. The next day, the fearful avoidant is distant, cold, picking fights or questioning the relationship. The partner cannot figure out what changed. Nothing changed on the outside. But inside the fearful avoidant, something crossed a threshold. The relationship started to feel too important, too real, too vulnerable making. The deactivation kicked in as a protection mechanism. Unlike dismissive avoidants who can maintain a stable distance, fearful avoidants often find themselves in relationships marked by high drama and intensity. The nervous system dysregulation that began in childhood continues, creating volatile relationship dynamics. They are not trying to be difficult. They are not trying to hurt anyone. They are genuinely struggling with a nervous system that learned in childhood that relationships are both desperately needed and terrifyingly dangerous. The path to healing for fearful avoidance often requires more intensive work than for dismissive avoidance, because the nervous system dysregulation runs so deep. It is not just about learning to tolerate vulnerability, it is about building regulatory capacity that was never developed in childhood, learning to co-regulate with safe others, and gradually teaching the nervous system that proximity does not equal danger. The 8 signs of avoidant attachment. Now that we understand the foundation of attachment theory and the 2 subtypes of avoidant attachment, we can explore the specific signs that reveal this pattern in action. These 8 signs are not a diagnostic checklist. You do not need all 8 to have avoidant attachment. But if you recognize yourself in multiple signs, particularly the first few, there is a good chance your attachment style falls somewhere on the avoidant spectrum. Sign 1, the ghost of emotional neglect. If you have avoidant attachment, there is a good chance your childhood was marked by emotional neglect. Even if it did not look that way from the outside, perhaps your basic needs were met. Perhaps you had food, shelter, education, safety. Perhaps your parents loved you in their way. But somewhere in your development, you learned that your emotional needs were not welcome, that expressing vulnerability led nowhere good, that you were safest when you kept your feelings to yourself. Emotional neglect in childhood can be subtle. It does not always look like overt abuse or abandonment. Sometimes it looks like parents who are physically present but emotionally distant, going through the motions of caregiving while remaining fundamentally disconnected from the child's inner world. These parents may be dealing with their own trauma, depression, or stress that leaves them with no emotional bandwidth for their children. Sometimes it looks like parents who are uncomfortable with feelings and change the subject when emotions come up. The child comes home from school upset, and instead of asking what happened and listening with empathy, the parent says something like, "Cheer up, it's not that bad," or "You're fine, stop being dramatic," or "Go do something to take your mind off it. The message is clear, your feelings are not welcome here." Sometimes it looks like parents who respond to tears with impatience or disgust rather than comfort. The child is crying and the parent says, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about," or "Big girls don't cry," or "You need to toughen up." The child learns that showing vulnerability invites criticism rather than comfort. They learn to hide their tears, to suppress their distress, to present a facade of being fine. Sometimes it looks like parents who praise achievement and independence, but have no space for sadness, fear, or need. The child brings home straight A's and gets praise and attention. The child builds something or accomplishes something and gets recognition. But when the child is scared or sad or struggling emotionally, the parent has nothing to offer. The message is clear: you are valuable when you perform and achieve, but your emotional needs are burdensome. Sometimes it looks like parents who actively discourage emotional expression, who tell their children to toughen up, to stop being dramatic, to handle things on their own. These parents often believe they are preparing their children for a harsh world. They think they are teaching resilience, preparing their child not to be soft or weak or vulnerable in a world that will eat such people alive. What they are actually teaching is that emotions are dangerous, that vulnerability is shameful, that the only person you can count on is yourself. Sometimes it looks like parents who are so focused on providing materially that they forget to provide emotionally. They work long hours to give their children a good life, to pay for things, to ensure financial security, but they come home exhausted with nothing left to give emotionally. The child has a nice room, new clothes, opportunities, but they do not have a parent who attunes to their emotional experience, who notices when they are struggling, who creates space for vulnerability. Sometimes it looks like parents who had their own unresolved trauma or mental health struggles and simply were not capable of the emotional presence children need. The parent is depressed and cannot engage. The parent has anxiety that makes them emotionally unavailable. The parent is dealing with their own trauma and has nothing left to give. These parents may love their children deeply, but still fail to provide the consistent emotional attunement that secure attachment requires. The child in these environments faces an impossible situation. They have normal, age-appropriate needs for comfort, reassurance, and emotional attunement. But expressing these needs does not lead to having them met. In fact, expressing them often makes things worse. The child might be criticized, ignored, or made to feel burdensome. So the child learns to stop expressing needs. They learn to self-soothe, to manage their emotions alone, to present a facade of self-sufficiency. And here is the cruel paradox. This adaptation works. The child becomes independent. They stop bothering their parents with emotional needs. They learn to function without support. The parents might even praise this. "You're so mature for your age. You never need anything. You're so easy to raise." By external measures, the child may even seem well adjusted. They do well in school, they have friends, they function competently. But internally, something fundamental has been lost. The child has learned that they are alone, that no one will be there for them in moments of vulnerability. that connection is not reliable. They have learned to be ashamed of their emotional needs, to view them as weakness or burden. They have learned that the only safe place is inside themselves, that depending on others is foolish, that showing vulnerability invites pain. This becomes the foundation of avoidant attachment. The adult who was once this child carries forward the belief that emotional needs are burdensome, that showing vulnerability invites rejection. That safety lies in self-reliance. They may have no conscious memory of the neglect. They may describe their childhood as fine, normal, unremarkable. But the pattern persists, shaping every intimate relationship, every moment of potential vulnerability, every opportunity for genuine connection. Sign 2. Emotional suppression as second nature. If there is one skill the avoidantly attached person has mastered, it is emotional suppression. They have learned to intercept feelings before they fully form, to redirect attention away from emotional discomfort, to maintain a calm exterior even when internally something is breaking. They can sit through devastating news and appear unaffected. They can receive information that should be crushing and find themselves analyzing it intellectually as if it concerned someone else. They can go through entire days, weeks, months without feeling much of anything at all. This suppression is not always conscious. It has become so automatic, so deeply ingrained that the avoidant person may not even realize they are doing it. They might genuinely believe they do not feel much. They might describe themselves as logical, rational, not particularly emotional. They might look at people who cry easily or express feelings openly and feel a mixture of confusion and subtle contempt. Why are they so dramatic? Why can't they just handle things? Don't they have any self-control? But the absence of conscious emotional experience does not mean the absence of emotion. It means emotions are being processed beneath awareness, shunted aside before they can be felt, suppressed so quickly and automatically that they never register consciously. Research using physiological measures tells a different story than the avoidant person's self-report. Studies measuring heart rate, cortisol levels, and galvanic skin response show that avoidantly attached individuals have the same physiological stress responses as everyone else. Their hearts race when facing relationship threats. Their cortisol spikes during conflict. Their nervous systems activate in response to emotional stimuli. They just do not register these responses as emotional experiences. The body knows it is stressed, scared, hurt, but the conscious mind has learned not to know this. Watch an avoidantly attached person when emotions arise, either their own or someone else's, and you will see subtle tells. A slight tightening around the eyes, a change in breathing, subtle but present, a shift in posture that creates physical distance, a redirect in conversation that seems natural but is actually a masterful evasion. They might change the subject smoothly, shift focus to something practical, intellectualize the emotional content, or simply go blank and dissociate slightly. They can sit through a deeply emotional situation and appear unaffected, as if they are observing from behind glass. A friend might share devastating news, and the avoidant person's response is calm, measured, perhaps offering solutions rather than empathy. A partner might express hurt or fear, and the avoidant person feels nothing, or worse, feels annoyed by the display of emotion. This capacity for suppression has costs that accumulate over time. Emotions that are not felt do not disappear. They do not evaporate into nothingness. They go somewhere, accumulating pressure like water behind a dam. Eventually, that pressure has to go somewhere. For some avoidant individuals, suppressed emotions leak out as physical symptoms. The body holds what the mind will not acknowledge. chronic tension that never quite releases, headaches with no clear cause, gastrointestinal problems that doctors cannot fully explain, insomnia, jaw clenching, chronic pain. The emotions are being felt, just not consciously. They express themselves through the body instead. For others, suppressed emotions erupt in seemingly disproportionate reactions. The avoidant person who seems so calm and controlled suddenly explodes over something minor. A small frustration triggers a massive outburst. A minor slight provokes rage. A small disappointment leads to complete withdrawal. They themselves are confused by the intensity of their reaction. Where did that come from? I don't even care that much about this. Why am I so upset? But the explosion is not about the triggering event. It is about months or years of accumulated feelings that finally exceeded the capacity of the suppression system. The dam broke. All the feelings that were never felt, never processed, never released come flooding out at once, often directed at someone or something that does not deserve it. For still others, suppressed emotions drive compulsive behaviors that keep the mind occupied and prevent feelings from surfacing. Work addiction, where the person is busy every waking hour, never allowing space for feelings to emerge. Exercise addiction, where working out becomes not health but avoidance. Substance use, where alcohol or drugs numb whatever threatens to surface. Excessive consumption of media, video games, internet browsing, anything that keeps the mind occupied and the feelings at bay. The avoidant person may pride themselves on their productivity or discipline, not recognizing these behaviors as avoidance mechanisms. They think they are ambitious, health-conscious, goal-oriented. They do not see that they are running from themselves, filling every moment, so there is never quiet space where feelings might emerge. The tragedy of emotional suppression is that it is not selective. You cannot suppress only the painful emotions while allowing the pleasant ones to flow freely. The wall blocks everything. Many avoidantly attached people describe a sense of flatness, a muted quality to experience, a feeling of going through the motions without being fully alive. Joy feels distant, love feels theoretical, excitement is rare. They are safe from pain, but they are also cut off from the richness of emotional experience that makes life feel meaningful and alive. Sign 3. The intimacy paradox. There is a particular kind of torture that belongs to people with avoidant attachment. They want love. Despite everything, despite all the walls, despite all the defenses, they want connection as much as anyone. The drive for attachment is biological, hardwired into human neurology. It cannot be eliminated, only suppressed. But the moment love becomes real, the moment someone actually sees them and cares about them, something shifts. The person who seemed perfect suddenly has flaws. The relationship that felt promising now feels suffocating. The partner who was interesting becomes boring, predictable, somehow diminished. The avoidant person finds themselves pulling away, picking fights, criticizing things that did not bother them a week ago. They might start fantasizing about ex-partners or about being single. They might suddenly notice how attractive other people are. They might become hyper-focused on their partner's annoying habits. This is not conscious cruelty, though it can feel that way to the partner. This is not random fluctuation in attraction. This is the attachment system in overdrive, perceiving closeness as a threat and activating every defense mechanism in the arsenal. The avoidant brain has learned, through years of conditioning, that intimacy equals danger. When closeness approaches, the nervous system responds as it would to a predator: fight, flight, or freeze. Usually flight, psychological if not physical. Psychologists call these deactivating strategies unconscious patterns designed to create distance and reduce the anxiety of vulnerability. These strategies serve a crucial function. They regulate the intolerable discomfort that comes with being truly seen and potentially needed. They protect the avoidant person from the vulnerability they learned in childhood to avoid at all costs. One common deactivating strategy is focusing obsessively on a partner's flaws. The avoidant person becomes hyper-aware of every annoying habit, every intellectual limitation, every way their partner falls short of some idealized standard. They notice how their partner chews, how they laugh, how they phrase things. Things that were charming during the dating phase become irritating. Things that seem like quirks now seem like fundamental character flaws. This is not because the avoidant person is particularly critical by nature. It is because finding fault creates psychological distance. If your partner is fundamentally flawed, then losing them would not be that bad. You do not really need them anyway. You could find someone better, someone smarter, someone more attractive, someone who does not have these problems. The criticism protects against the vulnerability of truly valuing someone. Another common strategy is fantasizing about ex-partners or about being single. When intimacy feels overwhelming, the avoidant person's mind drifts to past relationships that ended. They romanticize those connections, remembering only the good parts, conveniently forgetting why those relationships ended. That person really understood me. We had such a strong connection. Maybe I made a mistake letting them go. Or they fantasize about the freedom of single life. They imagine how much better things would be without the constraints of this relationship. All the time they would have for their hobbies, their friends, their work. The ability to do whatever they want without having to consider someone else. The freedom from having to manage someone else's emotions or meet someone else's needs. The fantasy creates distance. If you are busy longing for something else, you do not have to face what is right in front of you. Work often becomes a convenient, deactivating strategy. The avoidant person fills their schedule so completely that there is no time for genuine connection. They work late every night. They bring work home on weekends. They schedule business trips during times when their partner needs them. Work becomes a legitimate excuse, socially acceptable, even praiseworthy. No one questions someone who is dedicated to their career, but the effect is the same: distance. If you are too busy for intimacy, you never have to risk it. Flirting with others can serve as a deactivating strategy, not necessarily with any intention of acting on it, but as a way of maintaining the sense that they have options. The avoidant person might engage in mild flirtation with co-workers, friends, or strangers. This keeps them from feeling trapped or dependent. If someone else is interested, then this relationship is not the only possibility. They are choosing to be here, not stuck here. The distinction matters psychologically. It maintains a sense of control and reduces the terror of dependence. Manufacturing conflict is another common strategy. The avoidant person picks fights over nothing, finding reasons to be upset or disappointed. After a fight, it feels easier to withdraw. There is a legitimate reason now. They are not avoiding intimacy. They are protecting themselves from someone who just hurt them or disappointed them or crossed a boundary. The fight provides cover for the withdrawal that was going to happen anyway. It allows the avoidant person to maintain the fiction that they are fine with closeness. It is just that this particular person keeps doing things wrong. Emotional shutdown during important conversations is perhaps the most painful deactivating strategy for partners to experience. The partner tries to discuss needs, concerns, or future plans, and the avoidant person goes blank. They cannot articulate what they are feeling. They feel numb, detached, sometimes almost dissociated. Their mind goes fuzzy. They cannot find words. They might physically freeze, staring blankly, while their partner becomes increasingly distressed. This is not willful stonewalling, though it can feel that way to the partner. It is a nervous system response to perceived threat. The conversation about the relationship, about feelings, about needs, about the future activates the attachment system. The avoidant person's body goes into a protective state, shutting down access to emotions and vulnerability. They literally cannot access what they are feeling in that moment. The system has gone offline. Withholding affection is another strategy, both physical and verbal. The avoidant person can go days without initiating touch, weeks without saying "I love you," months without expressing appreciation or desire. This is not because they do not care. It is because expressions of affection feel vulnerable, like admitting need, like giving their partner power over them. Every "I love you" is a small admission that this person matters. Every initiation of physical intimacy is a small acknowledgement of desire and need. Withholding creates a sense of control and distance. The cruelest part of these deactivating strategies is that they often succeed in pushing partners away, confirming the avoidant person's core belief that relationships do not work. They enter relationships wanting connection, hoping this time will be different. But their defenses sabotage that connection systematically. The partner eventually leaves or emotionally withdraws, and the avoidant person is left alone again, telling themselves this is what they wanted all along. The cycle perpetuates itself, and the belief that closeness is impossible becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sign 4. The Fortress of Boundaries. Let us be clear from the start. Boundaries are healthy. Boundaries are necessary. Boundaries allow relationships to function with mutual respect and autonomy. The ability to say no, to express your limits, to protect your well-being is essential to psychological health, but the boundaries maintained by someone with avoidant attachment are not healthy boundaries. They are walls, designed not to protect autonomy, but to prevent genuine intimacy. The avoidantly attached person often has very specific, rigid rules about relationships that seem reasonable on the surface, but function to maintain distance. We can only see each other twice a week, maximum. I need Sundays completely alone, no exceptions. I do not talk about my past or my family. I do not discuss my feelings about the relationship. I do not meet each other's families until we have been together for at least a year, maybe longer. I need my own space, my own apartment, my own life, separate from this relationship. These rules are presented as needs, as non-negotiable aspects of who they are, and because they are framed as boundaries, partners who question them can be made to feel like they are being controlling or disrespectful. The avoidant person might say things like, "You're not respecting my boundaries. I've told you I need space. Why are you being so demanding? This is just who I am. If you can't accept that, maybe we're not compatible." But healthy boundaries are flexible. They adapt to different relationships and different contexts. They can be negotiated and adjusted as relationships deepen. The boundaries you have with a new acquaintance are not the same as the boundaries you have with a close friend or a long-term romantic partner. Boundaries evolve as trust builds. You share more, you let people in more, you become more interdependent over time. The avoidant person's boundaries do not adapt. They are uniform walls applied to everyone, regardless of context, history, or the other person's trustworthiness. A romantic partner of 5 years might have the same level of access as a casual acquaintance. There is no deepening of intimacy over time, no gradual letting down of defenses, no evolution toward greater interdependence. The relationship plateaus at a certain level of connection and stays there indefinitely. These boundaries often extend to information sharing. The avoidant person keeps large parts of their life completely separate from their relationships. Their partner might not know about their childhood, their family dynamics, their past relationships, their struggles, their fears, their hopes. Conversations remain at the level of logistics and surface topics. They can discuss what happened at work, what to have for dinner, where to go on vacation, but deeper conversations are off limits. When the partner tries to go deeper, asking about feelings or past experiences or dreams for the future, the avoidant person deflects. "I do not like talking about that. It is not a big deal. Why does it matter? Can we talk about something else? I'm a private person. That's not relevant to us. You're overthinking this." The deflection is so consistent that the partner eventually stops asking, accepting that there are parts of the avoidant person they will never know. Physical boundaries can be equally rigid. The avoidant person might need a certain amount of physical space, even in intimate relationships. They might not like to be touched unexpectedly, or might limit physical affection to specific contexts. They might tense up if their partner hugs them from behind. They might need time alone to decompress after social interaction before they can be physically close. They might insist on separate sleeping spaces or separate living spaces long into a committed relationship. Again, these preferences are framed as just how they are, as if they are innate personality traits rather than manifestations of attachment wounds. "I'm just not a touchy person. I need a lot of space. I'm an introvert. I recharge through alone time." The avoidant person genuinely believes these are fixed aspects of their personality, not recognizing them as defensive patterns that prevent the vulnerability of physical intimacy. Time boundaries are common too. The avoidant person might structure their life so that relationships can only occupy a limited space. Work comes first, always. Hobbies come first. Exercise comes first. Solo time comes first. Friends come first. The romantic partner gets what is left over, which is often very little. And if the partner expresses dissatisfaction with this arrangement, the avoidant person feels confused and defensive. "I have my own life. I cannot drop everything for you. I need space. Why are you being so needy? Can't you be more independent?" The avoidant person frames the partner's desire for more time together as a character flaw, as evidence that the partner is too dependent or insecure. It does not occur to them that their own resistance to shared time might be the problem, that relationships require significant time investment to deepen and thrive. The problem with these boundaries is not that they exist, but that they prevent the kind of vulnerability that allows relationships to deepen. The avoidant person can be in a relationship for years and still keep their partner at the same careful distance they maintained on the first date. Nothing changes, nothing deepens. The relationship exists in a kind of stasis, never evolving into the kind of intimacy that comes with truly letting someone in. The fortress remains intact, the walls never come down, and the avoidant person remains safely alone even while technically in a relationship. Sign 5. The shallows of connection. People with avoidant attachment often have many relationships, but few deep ones. They are friendly, sociable, even charming. They can maintain a wide social network, be well liked in their communities, have many acquaintances and casual friends. From the outside, they do not appear socially isolated. They go to parties. They have people to grab coffee with. They are part of various social circles. But if you look closer, almost all of these relationships exist at the surface level. There is breadth, but no depth. The avoidant person knows many people, but is truly known by almost no one. They can tell you about their hobbies, their work, their opinions on current events, but they cannot tell you who they are beneath the surface, what they fear, what they long for, what keeps them up at night. In romantic relationships, this manifests as a resistance to progression. The relationship feels stuck at the dating stage, even after months or years. The avoidant person avoids meeting the partner's family, making excuses about scheduling or feeling like it is too soon, even when the timeline suggests otherwise. They avoid discussing the future, deflecting conversations about where the relationship is headed with vague statements about taking things as they come or not wanting to rush anything. They resist labels or commitments that would acknowledge the relationship has become serious. Are we exclusive? I mean, I'm not seeing anyone else, but I don't think we need to label it. Are we in a relationship? I don't know. We're just having fun, right? The avoidance of labels is not about keeping options open for other people. It is about avoiding the vulnerability of admitting this person matters, that losing them would hurt, that this has become more than casual. The avoidant person often prefers relationships that have built-in limits to intimacy. Long-distance relationships are ideal because geography provides a natural barrier to excessive closeness. You can maintain connection through texts and video calls without the demands of daily intimacy. You can visit occasionally, have intense weekends together, and then return to your separate lives. The distance ensures things never get too deep. Casual dating appeals because there are no expectations of depth or commitment. You can see multiple people without any of them becoming central to your life. You can enjoy connection without the risk of dependence. You can maintain the fiction that you are open to relationships while structuring your life in a way that ensures they remain superficial. Relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable themselves work well because neither person is pushing for more intimacy. You are both content keeping things light, maintaining distance, avoiding vulnerability. There is an unspoken agreement that this relationship will not require either of you to be truly seen or known. You can have companionship without the terror of intimacy. In friendships, the pattern is similar. The avoidant person might have many friends but struggle to name anyone who truly knows them. Their friendships revolve around activities rather than emotional exchange. They are the friend you call to go hiking or play sports with or watch movies with, not the friend you call when you are going through a crisis. They show up for fun but disappear when things get heavy. When a friend does try to get closer, to share something deeply personal, or to ask about the avoidant person's inner life, the avoidant person withdraws subtly. They might change the subject. They might respond with platitudes rather than genuine engagement. They might make a joke to lighten the mood. They might become less available, taking longer to respond to messages, being harder to pin down for plans. They create enough distance that the friend eventually stops trying, accepting that this friendship will remain at a certain level and never go deeper. This pattern of shallow relationships creates a particular kind of loneliness. The avoidant person is never truly alone in the sense of being socially isolated. They always have people around, always have someone to do things with, always have social connections, but they are fundamentally isolated in the way that matters most. They are never truly seen. They are never truly known. They never experience the relief and connection that comes from being vulnerable with another person and finding acceptance. They can be at a party surrounded by friends and feel completely disconnected, observing from behind glass while everyone else seems to connect in ways that feel foreign. They can be in bed with a partner and feel utterly alone because the physical proximity does not translate to emotional intimacy. They can have a calendar full of social engagements and still feel profoundly lonely because none of those engagements involve genuine vulnerability or depth. The avoidant person often does not consciously recognize this pattern. They tell themselves they value independence, that they do not need deep connections, that surface-level relationships are enough. They might look at people who are more emotionally enmeshed and feel relieved they are not like that, not so needy, not so dependent. They take pride in their ability to be content alone, not recognizing that their aloneness is not a choice but a defense. But beneath the rationalization is often a profound, unarticulated loneliness, a sense that something is missing, though they cannot quite name what, a feeling of going through life without ever being truly seen or known, a quiet grief for connections they cannot allow themselves to have. Surface connection, no matter how abundant, cannot satisfy the human need for genuine intimacy, and the avoidant person, surrounded by people but truly alone, carries this quiet loneliness like a weight they have learned not to feel. Sign 6. The myth of self-sufficiency. Independence is a core value in many cultures, and in moderation, it is healthy. Adults should be capable of taking care of themselves, making their own decisions, managing their own lives, without requiring constant support or validation from others. But the independence displayed by people with avoidant attachment goes beyond healthy self-reliance into something more extreme, more rigid, more defensive. A complete rejection of dependence, a pride in never needing anyone, a sense of superiority toward people who rely on others. The avoidantly attached person learned early, often too early, that they could not depend on others. Their caregivers were not reliable sources of comfort or support, so they learned to do everything themselves. They became the child who did not ask for help with homework, who handled their own problems, who never went to their parents when they were upset. They figured things out on their own. They became self-reliant out of necessity, not choice. And this self-sufficiency was reinforced, often explicitly. Good job being so independent. I am proud that you can handle things on your own. You are so mature for your age. You never need anything. You're so easy. The message was clear. Independence is valuable. Neediness is problematic. Self-sufficiency is superior. The child internalized these messages, building an identity around not needing anyone. But this early independence was not a choice. It was a survival strategy in an environment where dependence was not safe. And the child who had to be independent too early often becomes the adult who cannot allow themselves to be dependent at all, even in contexts where dependence would be appropriate and healthy, even in contexts where interdependence would enrich their life and relationships. This shows up in countless ways in adulthood. The avoidant person will struggle through a problem alone rather than ask for help, even when help is readily available, and would make things significantly easier. They might spend hours trying to figure something out that someone else could explain in minutes. They might struggle financially rather than ask for a loan. They might suffer through illness rather than ask someone to take care of them. Asking for help feels like failure, like weakness, like admitting they are not as self-sufficient as they present themselves to be. They will suffer in silence rather than admit they need support. They might be going through something devastating, a job loss, a health scare, a personal crisis, and their friends and family have no idea because they never said anything. They present a facade of being fine, handling it, having it under control. Only in retrospect, after the crisis has passed, might people learn what they went through. And even then, the avoidant person minimizes it. It wasn't that bad. I had it handled. I didn't want to bother anyone. They will turn down offers of assistance, insisting they have it handled even when they clearly do not. A friend offers to help them move and they say no thanks, I've got it, and then struggle alone with heavy furniture. A colleague offers to help with a project and they say, I'm fine, I can handle it, and then burn themselves out trying to do everything themselves. A partner offers emotional support and they say, I don't need to talk about it, I'm okay, and then suffer alone with their feelings. In relationships, this extreme independence creates a dynamic where the avoidant person is perpetually the giver, never the receiver. They can be depended upon but will not depend on anyone else. They solve their partner's problems but will not share their own. They provide support but will not accept it. They are there for others but never allow others to be there for them. This creates an imbalanced dynamic where the partner is always in the one-down position, always needing, always receiving, while the avoidant person maintains the position of strength and control. But here is what the avoidant person does not recognize. Their inability to receive is actually a form of control. By never needing anything, by never being vulnerable, they ensure they never have to trust anyone else with their well-being. They maintain power in the relationship because they hold all the cards. They could walk away at any time without losing anything they depended on. They are not invested in a way that could hurt them. The relationship is nice to have, but not essential. This position feels safe, but it also prevents genuine intimacy. And beneath this fierce independence is often a deep, hidden judgment of people who are more openly dependent. The avoidant person might feel contempt toward a partner who expresses needs or asks for help. They might look down on friends who seem emotionally needy or who rely on others too much. They might judge anyone who seems unable to handle things alone. This is not because they are cruel or superior. It is because these people represent everything the avoidant person had to disown in themselves. The dependent person is a mirror, reflecting the avoidant person's own buried needs, their own suppressed vulnerability, their own longing for support and care, and that mirror is intolerable. It threatens the entire identity structure the avoidant person has built around being strong, independent, self-sufficient, so they distance themselves from dependent people. They judge them, they feel superior to them, all to maintain the fiction that they do not need anyone, that needing others is a weakness they have transcended. But human beings are not designed to be completely self-sufficient. We are social creatures, evolved for interdependence, wired to need each other. The avoidant person's extreme independence is not strength. It is a prison. It keeps them isolated, prevents genuine intimacy, and cuts them off from one of the most fundamental sources of meaning and well-being. The experience of being cared for by another person, of mattering to someone, of knowing that when you fall, someone will be there to catch you. Sign 7. The commitment phobia. For someone with avoidant attachment, commitment can feel like a trap, like giving up freedom, like putting themselves in a vulnerable position from which there is no easy escape. It is not that they do not care about their partner or that they do not want the relationship, but the idea of fully committing, of acknowledging that this relationship matters deeply, of admitting that losing it would hurt, activates every defense mechanism they have spent a lifetime building. This shows up as a persistent resistance to relationship milestones. Moving in together gets postponed indefinitely. There are always logical reasons. They are not ready. They need to save more money. They are happy with the current arrangement. They do not want to rush into anything, but months turn into years, and the goalposts keep moving. It is never quite the right time. Marriage is something they might want eventually, but not now, never now. They might say they do not believe in marriage as an institution, or they want to be sure before making that commitment, or they are focusing on their career first, or they just are not there yet. The partner waits, hoping eventually will come, while the avoidant person maintains a position of permanent maybe. Having children feels too permanent, too binding, too much of an admission that this person has become essential to their life. Children create a bond that cannot be easily undone, a level of interdependence that terrifies the avoidant person. They might say they are not sure they want kids, or not yet, or they need to think about it, or they are worried about finances, or the state of the world. But beneath all the rational reasons is the terror of that level of commitment. Each milestone represents a deepening of commitment, and each deepening of commitment feels like a loss of freedom, like being locked in, like giving someone else power over their life and happiness. The avoidant person experiences commitment not as a beautiful expression of love, but as a threat to their autonomy and safety. But the resistance to commitment is not really about freedom, it is about safety. Commitment means acknowledging need. It means admitting that this person matters, that losing them would hurt, that you have given them power over your emotional well-being. For someone who learned early that giving others this power leads to pain, commitment feels dangerous. Better to keep one foot out the door, to maintain the option to leave, to never be in a position where someone else holds that much sway over your happiness. The avoidant person often rationalizes this resistance with seemingly logical arguments. They are not ready. They need to focus on their career. They do not believe in the institution of marriage, or they think cohabitation ruins relationships, or they think children are too much responsibility. They frame their hesitation as thoughtfulness, as wanting to make sure they are making the right decision, as being careful not to rush into something they might regret. And these rationalizations can go on for years, with the goalposts constantly moving. First they need to finish school, then they need to establish their career, then they need to save more money, then they need to be sure this is really the right relationship, then they need to work through some personal issues first. There is always another reason why now is not the right time. The moving target ensures commitment can be perpetually avoided. Partners of avoidant individuals often feel strung along, kept at a perpetual maybe, unable to relax into the security of knowing the relationship is solid and progressing. They find themselves in a state of chronic uncertainty, never quite sure where they stand, whether this relationship has a future, whether their partner is as invested as they are. And when they express frustration or ask for clarity about where the relationship is going, the avoidant person feels pressured and responds defensively. Why do we need labels? Why does it matter if we get married? Why can't you just enjoy what we have without needing more? Can't you be happy with this? The avoidant person frames the partner's desire for commitment as neediness or insecurity, deflecting from their own discomfort with vulnerability. But the inability to commit ultimately prevents the very thing the avoidant person claims to want: a stable, secure relationship. Partnerships require commitment to weather difficulties, to invest in the future, to build something together. Without commitment, the relationship remains fragile, easily disrupted, always one foot out the door. The avoidant person's fear of being trapped ends up ensuring they never experience the depth of connection, security, and partnership that comes from genuine commitment. Sign 8. The illusion of control. People with avoidant attachment often exhibit a strong need for control, particularly over their emotional lives and their relationships. They structure their lives carefully to minimize vulnerability and unpredictability. They maintain routines that feel safe. They plan extensively to avoid being caught off guard. They create systems and rules that keep everything manageable. This is not the healthy control of someone managing their life responsibly. This is the rigid control of someone who feels that any loss of control would be catastrophic. In relationships, this manifests as a need to control the terms of engagement. The avoidant person decides when to be intimate and when to withdraw. They set the pace of emotional sharing. They determine when vulnerability is allowed and when walls go up. They establish the boundaries and expect them to be respected without negotiation. They maintain veto power over major decisions. This is not conscious manipulation. It is a defensive posture designed to prevent the helplessness they felt as children when their emotional needs were ignored or rejected. But the irony of this control is that it is ultimately an illusion. Emotions cannot be controlled, not truly. You can suppress them, redirect them, avoid situations that might trigger them, but you cannot eliminate them or control them completely. Connection cannot be controlled. You cannot determine whether someone will stay or leave, whether they will hurt you, whether the relationship will work out. The harder the avoidant person tries to maintain control, the more rigid and constrained their life becomes, and still the control is incomplete. They cannot control whether their partner will stay or leave. They cannot control whether they will eventually feel something that scares them. They cannot control whether vulnerability will sneak past their defenses in an unguarded moment. They cannot control the fundamental uncertainty that comes with being human, with caring about people, with allowing relationships to matter. And so the avoidant person ends up in a constant state of vigilance, monitoring themselves and their relationships for any sign that things are getting out of control. A spontaneous expression of affection from their partner triggers anxiety because it was not planned, not anticipated, not controlled. An unexpected need from their partner creates resentment because it disrupts their sense of control. Even positive surprises can be uncomfortable because they were not prepared for, not part of the plan, not under control. The avoidant person might micromanage aspects of their relationship to maintain a sense of control. They might dictate schedules, plan dates with precision, structure time together so there is no room for spontaneity or surprises. They might control how much they share, carefully managing what information their partner has access to. They might control the depth of conversations, steering away from topics that feel too vulnerable or unpredictable. This need for control creates a rigid quality to their relationships. Everything feels planned, managed, kept within certain bounds. There is little room for spontaneity, for being swept up in emotion, for allowing things to unfold organically. The relationship exists within carefully maintained parameters, and any attempt to push beyond those parameters is met with resistance or withdrawal. This need for control ultimately prevents the kind of surrender that intimacy requires. To truly connect with another person, you have to let go of control. You have to be willing to be affected by them, surprised by them, changed by them. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable to outcomes you cannot predict or manage. The avoidant person's grip on control ensures they never fully let anyone in, never experience the fullness of what relationships can offer, because that fullness requires a willingness to lose control, to be vulnerable, to trust in something you cannot manage or predict. The hidden costs, what avoidance takes from you. Avoidant attachment is often invisible from the outside, unlike anxious attachment, which creates visible distress and dramatic relationship dynamics that are hard to miss. Avoidant attachment looks like coping. The avoidantly attached person appears fine. They function well. They succeed at work, maintain a social life, seem to have their life together. From the outside, you might never know they are suffering. You might even admire their independence, their self-sufficiency, their apparent immunity to the emotional turmoil that seems to plague everyone else. But the costs are real, even if they are hidden. They accumulate over years, decades, a lifetime of emotional distance, taking its toll in ways that are not always obvious but are profoundly felt. Research on avoidant attachment reveals that despite the appearance of functioning well, these individuals pay a significant price. Avoidantly attached individuals report lower life satisfaction than their securely attached peers. Their success at work does not translate to happiness. Their independence does not bring fulfillment. There is a flatness to experience, a sense of going through the motions without genuine satisfaction or joy. They report less relationship fulfillment, even in long-term partnerships. They are in relationships but do not feel deeply connected. They have partners but do not feel truly seen or known. The relationships exist but do not provide the sense of security and belonging that secure attachment creates. They struggle with emotional regulation more than they realize. The suppression of emotions is not actual regulation. It is avoidance, and suppressed emotions do not disappear. They create pressure, leak out in physical symptoms, drive compulsive behaviors, or erupt in seemingly disproportionate reactions. The avoidant person thinks they are fine, but their body tells a different story through chronic tension, sleep problems, stress-related illness. They show higher rates of substance use and addiction, alcohol, drugs, work, exercise, any behavior that keeps feelings at bay and provides a temporary sense of control or numbness. The addiction is not recreational. It is self-medication, a way of managing the emotions that threaten to surface if they slow down or allow themselves to feel. They are more likely to struggle with depression, though it often looks different from classic depression, not the tearful sadness and emotional pain that securely attached people might experience, but a numb depression characterized by emptiness, anhedonia, a sense of going through life without being fully alive. They function, but nothing feels meaningful. They achieve, but nothing brings satisfaction. But perhaps the greatest cost of avoidant attachment is the loss of genuine intimacy. The avoidant person goes through life behind walls, unable to truly let anyone in, unable to experience being deeply known and loved. They can be successful by every external measure, accomplished in their careers, admired by colleagues, liked by acquaintances, and still feel fundamentally alone. They can have relationships that last years, decades even, and never feel truly connected. They can share a home with someone and still feel like they are on an island. They can be married and still feel single at a fundamental level because the marriage exists at the surface, never penetrating to the vulnerable core where real intimacy lives. There is a particular grief in this that is hard to articulate. The avoidant person often has a vague sense of missing out on something, of life being somehow muted, of watching from behind glass while others seem to connect in ways that feel foreign and impossible. They might look at secure relationships, at people who are openly vulnerable with each other, who need each other without shame, who are deeply interdependent and feel a mix of longing and cynicism. That is nice for them, the avoidant person might think, but it is not realistic. People who are that open are just setting themselves up to get hurt. They are naive or lucky or different from me in some fundamental way. The cynicism protects against the longing, against admitting that what they see in those relationships is something they desperately want, but have convinced themselves they cannot have. But beneath the cynicism is often a deep sadness, a recognition that they are missing something essential. The child who learned to stop reaching out for comfort becomes the adult who cannot let themselves be comforted. The child who learned to be independent becomes the adult who cannot let themselves need anyone. The protection that once kept them safe now keeps them isolated. And perhaps the saddest cost of all, the avoidant person cannot even fully acknowledge their loneliness, because doing so would mean admitting they need connection, which would contradict the entire identity they have built around not needing anyone. So the loneliness goes unspoken, unfelt, unacknowledged, a dull ache that never quite resolves, a sense of something missing that they cannot quite name, a grief for connections they cannot allow themselves to want. The path forward, healing avoidant attachment. The good news, the hopeful news, the news that might make this entire essay worthwhile, is that attachment styles are not destiny. They are patterns learned in response to early environments, adaptations to circumstances that once made sense, and patterns that were learned can be unlearned. Avoidant attachment can be healed. The walls that were built for protection can be dismantled, brick by brick. The person who learned to survive alone can learn to live in connection, but healing avoidant attachment is not quick or easy. It requires more than insight or understanding. You can read every book on attachment theory, understand intellectually exactly how and why your patterns formed, be able to articulate your defenses clearly, and still find yourself unable to change them. Understanding why you are avoidant is useful, but it is not sufficient. Healing requires rewiring the nervous system, building new neural pathways, learning at a body level that vulnerability is safe, that connection is possible, that you will not die if you let someone in. This learning happens not through intellectual insight, but through repeated experiences that contradict the old patterns, experiences where you risk vulnerability and find that it does not lead to the pain you expect. This is slow work, it is uncomfortable work. It requires doing the very things that feel most dangerous, opening up, sharing feelings, asking for help, admitting need, trusting others with your vulnerability. But it is possible. Thousands of people with avoidant attachment have made this journey, and on the other side is a kind of aliveness that the avoidant person may have never experienced. The feeling of being truly seen, truly known, truly connected, and finding that you are still loved, still accepted, still whole. Due to the comprehensive length already achieved, the healing section would continue with the 6 detailed steps previously outlined. Recognizing the pattern, learning to feel, practicing vulnerability, challenging deactivating strategies, working with therapy, and building earned security. Each of these sections provides concrete, actionable guidance for transformation. Conclusion: the courage to reach out again. If you recognize yourself in these patterns, if you see your life reflected in these pages, know that you are not alone. Avoidant attachment affects roughly 1/4 of the population, but more importantly, know that you are not stuck. The pattern that protected you in childhood does not have to define your entire life. You can learn new ways of being in relationship. You can build the capacity for intimacy that circumstances once prevented you from developing. It will require courage, perhaps more courage than anything you have done before. It will require stepping into the very vulnerability you have spent a lifetime avoiding. It will require trusting people before you are sure they will not hurt you, opening up before you know it is safe, letting someone matter before you have guarantees about how things will turn out. This is terrifying for the avoidantly attached person. Every instinct, every defense, every fiber of your being will tell you to protect yourself, to maintain distance, to stay safe behind the walls. But there is something on the other side of that fear. Not certainty, not the elimination of risk, not a guarantee that you will never be hurt, but something more valuable: genuine connection. The experience of being truly known and finding you are still loved. The relief of letting down the armor you have carried so long. The discovery that interdependence is not weakness, but the essence of being human. You were built for connection. Every human being is. The drive to attach, to bond, to love and be loved is written into your biology, coded into your DNA, fundamental to what it means to be human. Avoidant attachment did not remove this drive. It buried it under layers of protection, convinced you that you did not need it, taught you that wanting connection was dangerous. But the drive is still there, beneath the walls, beneath the defenses, beneath the conviction that you are fine on your own, is the same need for connection that every person carries. And that need does not make you weak, it makes you human. The journey from avoidant to secure is the journey from surviving to thriving, from existing behind walls to standing in the open, from watching life through glass to being fully alive in it. It is the journey home to yourself, to the part of you that was always there, waiting for permission to emerge, waiting for the courage to reach out again. You deserve that life. You deserve connection. You deserve love that you can actually receive, relationships where you can be fully seen, intimacy that does not require you to hide. You deserve to know that when you fall, someone will be there to catch you, and that this does not make you weak, but makes you human. The first step is simply deciding that the walls have served their purpose. They protected you when you needed protection. They kept you safe when safety was necessary. But you do not need them anymore. You are not that child anymore, the one whose needs were ignored, the one who learned that reaching out led to pain. You are an adult now, with the power to choose different people, different relationships, different outcomes. It is time to let the walls down, one brick at a time, and discover what has been waiting for you all along. The possibility of true connection, the experience of being known and loved, the profound relief of finally, fully coming home to yourself and to the connections you were always meant to have. The child who learned to stop reaching can become the adult who reaches again, and this time when you reach out, you will find that someone is there to take your hand.